This is VR Bump, I'm James, and today we're going to be playing Lemma, which stands for Let me walk to this cliff edge, fall off it and break my legs. Lemma is a voxel based parkour platformer game with some puzzle elements. So we're going to start off, new game, and we're going to start at the beginning. I've played this for about two or 3 hours. I'm probably about a quarter of the way through the game. But I'm going to start from the beginning for this video. I have to give the warning though in advance that this is the type of game where you're probably going to have to have built up your VRC legs beforehand, because it turns out running around like a lunatic over terrain suspended in the air in virtual reality does have the tendency to make you feel a little bit motion sick. But we're going to soldier on through as we've been rained on. The rain looks pretty awesome, and we are in this sort of weird land of voxels. And let's read these papers here. Now I'm using the Xbox controller this time. I've been playing this with a mouse and keyboard, but I've got the Xbox controller out. It detected it as soon as I launched the game. So it should be interesting to use the Xbox controller, see how much that affects things. We've got the stories presented by these notes in your mobile phone that you pick up later in the game. Mark. It's been 24 hours. Lemma has stabilised. I'm not ready to let Joan in yet. I'm afraid she'll get hurt. Okay. So as you play through the game, you basically get these little bits of story delivered through these notes and this mobile phone you pick up later on. And you're basically... Oh, spoiler alert. It's not really much of a spoiler. You're basically, I think you're like the assistant of this scientist who's created this crazy world, and you're trying to discover what's happened and what's going on. But your body is fully rendered. I'm definitely a woman because I do have mammary glands, and I've got good fashion sense actually. Some nice jeans and trainers, which is quite appropriate attire for this situation, to be honest. Let's go over there now. As you'll probably see, because it's a platformer game, they have put sort of secrets all over the place, so there is a little bit of replayability or replay value from this if you want to actually explore the environments a bit more. Oh, A is not jump. A is definite plummet to the death. What is jump? Okay, left trigger's jump and right trigger, so we're going to just go and jump across here. There we go. These orbs are sort of the side bonus thing to collect, so it sort of encourages you to explore. Now the actual platforming and movement in Lemma is actually pretty decent, and what they've done well is that it's quite forgiving. Like the jump's really quite responsive. The distance you can jump seems really far. There's no run up, and I'm jumping. If you've got a little bit of walking speed, you know, I mean, I guess it's kind of realistic jump distances. But you know, it's quite forgiving. It feels, you feel like you've missed a jump, but then you can grab onto a surface and you've actually got away with it, which is nice because obviously, you know, this isn't a situation that everyone's used to all the time, so it makes it actually a lot easier to play, and it's really satisfying actually the way that the character grabs onto walls and objects. Let's get up here. It is a little bit mental to play in VR though. So some of the earlier levels aren't so bad on the comfort level. Let's get this orb, but the later levels, the speed, and you're sort of doing wall running and crazy gripping onto things. Oh dear, that's really high up. The later levels get pretty tricky and pretty nauseating. Let's go. I'm going to jump and roll. If you press left click as you fall or left trigger as you fall, I think you roll. Let's see what happens. Let's go for this. This feels pretty high up, and I think this is the thing with VR. Height is something that's conveyed really well when you're playing on with a mouse and keyboard on a monitor. Although you sort of get an idea that you're high up and that you're in this crazy environment. It just doesn't convey the same sort of risk of falling or actual height to it. So you do get a good deal of extra value playing this with the Oculus Rift. Let's get jump down here. This is suicide. Whoa! No, no, we can't do that. We have to go around. Now, you notice there, when I died, it actually replaces you back where you died from, which, again, is a really nice design aspect to this. So you don't have to go back to the start of a level each time you die. You sort of go back to where you made your error. Makes it a lot less tedious to play through. And later on in the game, the puzzles do get a lot trickier. I spent a good sort of 35 minutes actually playing through one of the puzzles, partly because I'm stupid, but you know, it took a good deal of time for me to work it out. But you know, just because I fell off, I didn't have to restart the whole puzzle. You can sort of keep going, keep trying things, and the game's quite forgiving in that regard. I did it. It's beautiful. A non-deterministic universe with an unpredictable outcome. I have a limited but growing degree of control. Practice will yield better results. Certain elements exhibit intelligent behaviour. They scare me. Are they conscious beings? If so, at what level? Said Mark on January the 17th. He's written this out on a really small piece of paper but printed it. He's gone to all the effort of writing it in a word processor and then printing it on what appears to be a sort of A5 sheet of paper. Which is, you know, that's effort. And he's left a lot of sheets on the floor, but we're only reading one of them. But you know, it's a game. You can't be that critical. Oh, and he pressed the wrong button to jump there. Hate it when that happens in real life. You know, you turn up in this voxel-based world and you press the wrong jump button and end up falling to your death. Oh, because it is a voxel-based world, there's a sort of compromise in the sort of graphics with this. Like, you lose out on having nice details in the sense of, you know, real-world type structures and objects. And that sort of clarity that you get from a polygon sort of modelled world. But an advantage of the voxel world, and you sort of discover this later on in the game, is that the game is really dynamic in its geometry. Looks pretty awesome in an abstract sense as well. But you get there's a lot of freedom in terms of the voxels being destroyed, things moving around, and you noticed it earlier on, just stuff constructing in front of you, which you probably couldn't do so well with a polygon-based world. Why do you find it so hard to believe? It's just math. Matter is not a solid thing the way we think it is. This was the story in this does sometimes feel as if it was written for 14-year-olds doing GCSE science, but we'll look past that and just enjoy it. And you know, okay, I'm nitpicking a bit. The story's not that bad. It's nicer than to actually put a story into this rather than it just being a bland put as a platform, and I think it does motivate you to play through it. But the story, if you're getting ancient, might feel a little bit contrived. It definitely feels a little bit indie, the story, but I guess that's the charm of some of these games. Let's we need to get up there. There we go. See that constructing and building away. There's nice sounds actually, and I have to say, although the sound isn't sort of three-dimensional, you know, it's not 3D positioning the scene. That will come with the consumer Rift. What the sound does do though is it's just really nice. Like the rain now, you know, it's a really nice ambient rain sound. It feels vaguely damp, although the surface isn't damp, but it feels rainy, mostly because of the sound. And when the concrete blocks and stuff construct and things move around you, it makes a really nice earthy, rumbly sound, which alerts you that something's being built, because you learn that sound's associated with sort of pathways being built and things. But it just sounds really nice, and I think a lot of the sound design, the footsteps, the jump sound, the ruffling of the clothes when you do the jump, it's just nicely done. Right trigger to jump repeatedly between the two walls. Okay, this is the kind of thing. It reminds me of when you're like 8 and you climb up a doorway with your hands and legs out. That's what we're going to do in this voxel-based world. Here we go, in first person. I like this doorway. Looks really menacing. It's literally just like a corridor. But again, I played this game for about 50 minutes, 40 minutes on a monitor, and then I've played it for about 2 hours on the DK2, and it is so much more striking in virtual reality and so much more engaging and involving in virtual reality than it is playing it on a screen. Okay, we go. We're going to do this. Oh, there we go. That's another example of the sound engine being really fantastic. Is the you notice it had the sort of echo as we were jumping through this sort of cavernous space. So the sound changes depending on the environment you're in as well, which it's not perfect, but it's enough to again, draw you into the world a little bit more than if they'd just done bog standard generic sounds. Let's jump over it. Let's grab onto this. I think if you hold it, you stay hanging onto the cliff. So I'll do that. So, oh no! There we go. But I think the handling of when you jump and land on stuff is really nicely done as well. Oops. The hands really, even though it's, you know, sort of, it's almost as if you're magnetised to a surface in the way it's forgivingly done, but your brain kind of filters that out and you kind of just get into it, and it's just quite satisfying when you think you're going to fall off something and then she grabs onto it. Using the signal tag, there we go, I've got my phone. Replying, here we go. So the story initially is told through the sheets of paper, and then you get this ability to find the story out through your phone for some reason. I don't know why they've incorporated a phone into this, but it's so they can have this mechanic of these booths that you go to then get information on your phone. It's not a very good phone though. I mean, it is about as bland as phones come. It's nicer than my the phone I'm using at the moment, which is a HTC Wildfire, which is ancient. I tend to use my Nexus 7 more than my phone, to be honest, because I'm always near a Wi-Fi signal. But okay, we're getting through the story. But yeah, I think, you know, it's a nice way to get the story through without having to have a voice actor, and I'd rather have this sort of text displayed on a phone or through stuff in the environment than really bad voice acting or characters that just take you out of it. And in some ways, just reading it actually immerses you more because you're reading, and there's some association with reading that makes you... it's like two degrees of abstraction. You've got the game world that you're in, and then you're looking at a phone with writing on it. It sort of immerses you a bit more. I'm probably talking craziness, but another good example is sort of 2 layers of abstraction. If you play the original Half-Life, for example, or a game when you're in like a vehicle in the game. So in Half-Life, you start off in the little train, and then you walk out of the train into another environment. And the train already feels kind of artificial, and then you go into another space, and the fact you go from one space to another space almost validates in your mind that the next space is the more real one, or you're now in something more real. I don't know, probably craziness, but I think that sort of effect will be really powerful in VR if you, for example, are playing a game where you start off in a room and you've got a VR headset in the room, and you put the VR headset in VR on your face, and then your brain doesn't know where it starts and begins. It's like an inception of virtual reality. But I think we're about to finish the first level. I really do talk nonsense. I need to not talk so much nonsense, but I'm sure you guys get what I mean. There we go, and every finish of the level, you get this nice heavenly sound of congratulation that you've finished the stage. So let's go in through there. And it loads the next stage, and nicely the screen whites out when it loads the next stage, so you don't get sick from that. Unfortunately, the moment it loads into the next level, you get a lot of freeze for say a second or so. So you do have to remember to keep your head still. It's a bit like playing Half-Life 2 with the Oculus Rift, where when it's loading, you have to remember to keep your head still. Otherwise, you get that disconnect in the head tracking, and you get very sick very fast. So they've done a really nice job actually with these surfaces that you walk on to activate, and a lot of the puzzles later on use that to sort of do gameplay mechanics. We're going to do this second stage, and then I think I'm going to finish this video. But really, it's just an introduction to Lemma, and I think it's not a perfect game for... Oh no, we're not going to make... Oh, we did make it. There we go. The magnetised hand saved my life there. It's not a perfect game. That looks awesome. That's the advantage of a voxel-based environment. Now, as I said, it's not a perfect game for VR. It doesn't run completely flawlessly. That looks really gorgeous. The shadows and stuff. Really, really spectacular. I'd only really recommend this if you're someone that, say, you're familiar with the DK1 and DK2, and you've built up a tolerance to games that are almost there for pure VR comfort, but aren't quite, and have stuff like I say, pause, loading screens, and the occasional issue with lots of movement. If you're the type of person that can take those kind of games, we started running across there. Really nice animation actually with the feet, and so it feels really solid. Actually, feels like you're running on it, and with the headset you can look down and see your feet running on the wall. The developer's done a really good job with your virtual body. Fantastic. Yeah. So I interrupt myself again. If you've not got a lead line stomach, I probably would rather play this on a monitor. And if you find puzzle games really hard, you might find it easier to play on a monitor because you can look around quicker with the mouse and it's less nauseating in that regard. But if you've played all the sort of DK1, DK2 demos, you didn't have any problems with them, and you can take it because your stomach's a boss, then this is really good fun, especially if you also like platform games. And maybe you wanted to sort of see what would a game like Mirror's Edge be like. Whoa, in VR. That was really satisfying. The jumping, running, and climbing mechanics in this, I have to say, are some of the most satisfying I've ever seen in a game. Whoa! Oh dear, I killed myself. I hate it when that happens. It's just really, it's really smooth, really responsive. It is far better than Mirror's Edge in terms of the actual player movement. And it's quite important though, given that the bulk of this game is essentially player movement and the mechanics from that. So they've got the important parts right with this. Why does this place look so different? You're in a different terrain now. Okay, just skip through this. I'm going to ruin this. Is a spoiler alert. Feels like my hand's getting closer. Maybe I'm getting closer to the phone without realising it. Okay, I don't think you don't have to go to these. I don't think you can just sort of ignore the plot and just run through the game. Here we go. Gonna jump up here. Oh, so that's really nice how it just grips on. I think we want to go over it. Let's run across. One thing I did notice playing this with the DK2 is that you sometimes do get a good sense of vertigo from it. And I've been playing certain parts of the level, and I've got really sweaty palms just from the sense of vertigo. And I'll be like leaning over the edge of something. And I'll be like, oh, why is this making me feel so sweaty in the palms? And it is because you really do feel high up at certain points in this game. So I've unlocked a sort of slow motion fall mechanic. Again, it's just stuff that makes the platforming a little bit easier. Okay, I think we were meant to go down there. Makes it so the platforming isn't a chore, basically. And the initial levels of this, of course, are sort of designed to introduce you to the handling of the character, if you will. The puzzles start coming later on. I think there's a roll can it. There we go. Left click. It even told me on the screen and I wasn't paying attention. Left click to roll. Look at that. It's so cool how it builds in front of you. Oh no, I looked. I looked as I was running. That's how you fall off. You've got to be careful of these blocks. They will kill you. Oh dear. Not good. We'll just escape this. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Some of the different surfaces have. Oh no! Oh, I'm getting away from this. Oh! 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 Oh dear! That's it. Dead. Do you know what? I think that's a good place to stop though, because I don't want to ruin the puzzles for people watching this who are considering getting it. But yeah, so that is basically, that's an introduction to Lemma, As I say, I think if you've got a lead-lined stomach and maybe you're experienced with VR games, then definitely worth getting, especially if you like puzzle games, and especially if you really wanted to see what a game like Mirror's Edge with even better movement mechanics than Mirror's Edge would play like in virtual reality. If you're sensitive, then maybe give it a miss, or maybe just play it on a monitor, because it's a nice puzzle game to play on a screen anyway. You can get it on Steam, and you launch the VR version once you've installed it on Steam. Don't launch it through Steam. There's a VR launchable in the game directory. So you just right click on the game once you've downloaded it or bought it, and click browser directory, and you'll see there's a VR icon, and that's how you launch into it. And it launches, doesn't have direct mode at this point in time, but it launches as an extended display. Make sure you set your screen as the primary monitor, and away you go. So don't forget to subscribe, like, follow us on Facebook. Put a link underneath in the video description, and I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.